Well, boys, they finally did it. Not only do we have aircraft from 2006, we now have missiles from the 90s in War Thunder. The R-73, first added onto the Su-25BM from the event, has now made its way onto the MiG-29 SMT, which will be USSR's new top dog in this coming update. To balance this out, War Thunder also added the F-16C Block 50 for the United States. For the moment, the F-16C is relegated to using the Sparrows, as the AMRAAM is delayed for a future point in time. Originally, the F-16C and Israeli F-16D Barak II were only supposed to have AIM-9Ls at best, but after much request, the AIM-9M was also introduced just yesterday. In today's video, we'll talk about the short history of the AIM-9M and the R-73 and how it works in War Thunder. Footage for this video will be me testing the R-73 and AIM-9M with my friend last night to give it a feel of how it will look in game. We'll start with the AIM-9M Sidewinder and we'll end with the R-73 and where our ARB will be going from there. We'll start discussing stuff about how it'll look in the future and the future content that's being readied for future updates. Without further ado, let's begin. The AIM-9M is an evolution of the AIM-9 Sidewinder line that goes as far back as 1955. The AIM-9M began its life as the AIM-9L PIP, or Product Improvement Package, after the United States Air Force requested better countermeasure defense from the AIM-9L. The AIM-9M, or at least its first iteration, entered production in 1981, only 4 full years after the production of the AIM-9L. The AIM-9M was the last of the Sidewinders using the traditional conical scanning seeker. Incorporating new optical filters and microchips to sort out false targets, the AIM-9M was aerodynamically the same as the AIM-9L, but technologically it was far superior and far more advanced. Though, an emergent problem began during testing. The larger caliber and slower burning Soviet flares that the China Lake design team collected proved that the AIM-9M was getting spoofed by these flares, the very antithesis of what they set out to achieve with the AIM-9M program. The US Air Force needed the design team to overcome this flaw, otherwise the program would be terminated. The solution was to remove some of these features included in the automatic gain control on the AIM-9L, which carried over to the AIM-9M. These fixes worked, and they were put into the AIM-9M6 and AIM-9M7 in 1991. However, only 60 missiles were made before Operation Desert Storm, which meant they could not see use in the Gulf War. Further improvements on the AIM-9M included adding an AM scanner on top of the FM scanner, as they tested this by adding the AIM-9B's AM scanner on top of the FM scanner on the AIM-9M, and used a logic board to tell the missile which mode to use. This update became the AIM-9M8 and the AIM-9M9. Currently, the AIM-9M is present in 4 aircraft in-game. The F-16C Block 50 for the US, the F-16D Barak II for Israel, the AV-8B Plus for Italy, and the Harrier GR7 for Britain. Expect this list to expand in the future as more vehicles come in. In War Thunder, it's hard to determine which AIM-9M we are using since their way of implementing it was just copying off the Stinger Seeker properties and chucking it onto the AIM-9L's code. So the best we can be certain about is that at least the AIM-9M6 or the AIM-9M7 is the model in game, as it is emulating its flare resistance. To this end, we can only ascertain its gameplay performance. The following clips were tested with my friend Rowdy Horse 4 against an F-16A ADF in various scenarios. Let's have a look. First, we'll take a look at a rear aspect shot with reinforced flares and maneuvering without an afterburner. You're not afterburner, okay?
No, I'm not.
Flare.
Oh, it is still defeatable. I'm out of flare and chaff. We need to get out. Way too far from each other.
Then, We'll look at a side aspect shot with reinforced flares and maneuvering without an afterburner.
No, it's defeated as well. I guess it's not. I guess the IRCM does nothing.
Now, we'll look at a head-on shot with reinforced flares and minimal maneuvering.
Oh, you can defeat it.
Head-on is good.
Okay, yeah. So it's not fully like the tail on. I'm not afterburning, by the way, but I'm at 100% throttle.
As you can see from these 3 clips, reinforced flares, maneuvering, and turning off the afterburner is sufficient enough to defeat the AIM-9M. The only hits that AIM-9M can successfully do in short-range shots is shots that are fired below 2 kilometers in the rear aspect, and when the target does the normal flare pattern of sporadic flaring. In some cases, like in this following clip, you can see that the afterburners don't even need to be shut off to spoof the AIM-9M.
What the hell is the missile doing? Let's try again. Yeah, what the fuck is the missile doing?
They're using the dash on the Sheen.
Okay, yeah. One more doc. I want to use.
I'm sure that the developers will continue to tweak the AIM-9M as it is in a more rudimentary state than the AIM-9L on aircraft, because unlike the AIM-9M, the AIM-9L spent years being mounted on the AH-1Z for it to be tweaked and corrected in a less intrusive environment. But for now, the AIM-9M remains to be a stronger AIM-9L. Not entirely impossible to spoof, but has good enough performance for the upgrade. There are people who say that the AIM-9M should have 40G maximum overload, which I don't think is possible, considering it doesn't use thrust vectoring or large deflector paddles. The most generous estimate that is given by my sources is 35G at best. The AIM-9M already has a good enough range which allows it to engage MiG-29s from a distance that doesn't subject them to the R-73's insane dogfight capabilities. Speaking of the R-73, let's now take a look at it. The problem with the R-73 in-game is that everyone thinks it's the 1980s model, which uses a regular high off-bore sight seeker like the Python 3 and about 40G maximum overload. However, what actually is the case is that we are looking at the R-73M. The R-73M is an upgraded variant with a new seeker with ECCM, not IRCCM, true thrust vectoring, and extended range. As I've said, we know this because it has about 50G of overload. The original R-73 used deflector paddles. Basically, the nozzle did not move itself, but rather deflectors move the direction of thrust to the direction of turn. Another point of proof that this is the R-73M is that the missile tends to track the center of the target rather than the exhaust, which means at really close ranges, it can and will ignore flares due to its small gate width. At longer ranges, it can still be spoofed by flares as its ECCM still can't filter out flares, as it only uses a dual-band photo filter that can sniff out directional IRCM, but not flares. By 1996, all R-73s were upgraded to the R-73M standard, and from then on, the R-73 meant the R-73M model. In-game, the R-73 is more sensitive than the AIM-9M when it comes to flare rejection. The R-73 is more likely to go for flares than the AIM-9M. The only thing the R-73 has over the AIM-9M is its turn rate and impulse. This explains the trick shots people are making at low speed with the R-73. Of course, a slower target means the missile will have a good chance to still connect in spite of the flares, and a maneuver fight takes out all the energy a plane has, which reduces the distance between the flares and the target aircraft. In the so-called old missile meta, the PL-5B was the best example of this. Because it still has an immense amount of energy off the rail, it tended to go past flares and still hit the target aircraft if not flared properly. Here are examples of the R-73's capability at long range and at short range.
You know. We'll do the head on first. Long range head on. Yeah. Okay, yeah, they can still flare it. Is it? I thought that was turning towards me first. Let's do rear aspect then. I want to see if we can ditch it rear aspect. Gonna flare down. I'm turning into the sun. Give me a moment. Let's not turn into the sun. I'm after burning. Yeah, no, it is. With reinforced, you can defeat the R-73 as well. Okay, interesting. Yeah. So what the fuck was people doing when they can't? Oh no! I want to fly. Oh no! It's defeated. So, but it also could be because I'm bringing reinforced. Let me not bring reinforced. Yeah. So flare dumping. I'm gonna try this. I'm gonna try. I'm gonna try periodic flares. Yeah, no, you need to flare dump. How about periodic flares with reinforced? Let me try that one more time, and we're good. Yeah, I think the meta. I think the standard will be flares reinforced. Fuck chaff.
Yep. I mean, we've already been doing that, so all's well.
I mean, I have. I'm still bringing mixed, been live server, but it's been working well for me. In the live, not sure now. It is freaky though, Sheen. You see the MiG-29 cross you, and then you see the missile diamond come out, and at first the distance is like it'll still static. It'll still like 0.9, 0.91, 92, 93. So it feels like it's going away, and that just starts slowly decreasing as the missile starts turning into you. Yeah, no. Yeah, the ET lock in here is worse than in DCS for some reason.
That's aided by IRS.
Whoa.
I mean, every day we're just getting more and more the feeling. Sometimes the Russians just exaggerate their shit.
Yeah, I remember what Trump said. The numbers rushing
And then maybe you'll get a realistic performance.
Okay. Once you after you launch, right? Yeah. Okay. Tell me when you launch. As you can see, the R-73 isn't deadly at long range with standard flare and maneuver actions. At short ranges, especially at dogfight distances, is where the R-73 shines. The best way not to die to an R-73 at that distance is to not dogfight an SMT. The second best way not to die to an R-73 is to pre-flare and spam that flare button like you're in Top Gun Maverick trying to defeat radar-guided missiles with your flares. So now, what is the ripple effect of these two missiles in the game? Well, aside from the fact that they're giving the Magic to its IRCCM capabilities in a rework, it seems that a far deadlier missile is on its way. The Python 4 was spotted in the files, and upon testing in a user mission, it is made to feel like an amalgamation of the R-73 and AIM-9M. The Python 4 is said to use a seeker more advanced than the Stinger. The Stinger is known to use a dual-band IR and UV seeker, while the Python 4 uses a multi-band array seeker which not only scans the UV and IR bands, but also other relevant bands in the spectrum. This is perhaps the closest technology right before the charge-coupled device imaging infrared missiles like the ASRAM, AIM-9X, IRIS-T, and the AAM-5 use. Which is funny because a screenshot circulating about a game dev saying that the AIM-9M is worse than the R-73, and the R-73 is comparable to the ASRAM, AIM-9X, and IRIS-T. If true, this means that we're getting 5th generation missiles way earlier than anticipated. And as for the AMRAAM and all comparable modern Fox 3 BVR missiles, it's sooner than you think. All nations except Britain, Germany, and Japan have some form of AMRAAM chucker already in-game or coming in this update. Even Italy gets an AV-8B Plus that could and did carry AMRAAMs. So while it is a bummer that Japan didn't get to ride the new missile wave and get something like the AAM-3 for the EJ Kai, it's more likely that the AAM-3 will go on the F-15J with AAM-4s instead. Well, that's about the future of RB that I can see in the foreseeable future. I can tell you that once again, the update might be called Sons of Attila, but the main focus is extending Air RB as far as it can at this point. I feel bad for the 11.3s that have to catch these new IR missiles. Imagine buying an F4S or an MiG-23ML just to catch SMTs. Anyways, thank you for watching. This is Dr. MD, and as always, Godspeed.